Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. So in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing another Keaouris. It's a relatively new brand. I have reviewed another watch from them previously. Now this is the newest model that they've given here. So this is a World War II inspired military pilot watch, better known as the A-11. And Keaouris have taken this vintage inspired design and basically upgraded it, given us all the modern day specifications that we need, given us some pretty decent dimensions. So let's go through the specs and dimensions shortly. Let me just tell you what's in the box. You get this cloth hard case, very good, does protect the watch, and you also get the Keaouris warranty card. You also get a very nice suede watch cloth. So that aside, let's have a closer look at this Keaouris A-11 inspired watch. The specifications are quite modern. So you've got a 316L stainless steel case. As you can see, it is fully polished down to the lugs, sides. The case back is brushed with some specifications on the back. You've also got a boxed sapphire crystal as replacement for the domed acrylic crystal that these watches used back in the day. You've also got a Seiko NH38, which means this watch does not have a ghost position or a date position, which is quite good to see. Usually you do get NH35s with a ghost position that a lot of brands use, but they've gone for a dateless Seiko NH38. So it has the same specifications as a Seiko NH35, same reliability, hacks and winds, same jewel count and beat rate. Now they've also increased the water resistance to this watch. You've got 200 meters of water resistance, which means you do have a screw down case and a screw down case back. Now dimensions, this watch sits in at 36 millimeters across. You do have a thickness of 13 millimeters, and you've got a lug to lug of 44 millimeters, a lug width of 18 millimeters, and a very nice crown size of 6.4 millimeters. So the watch overall does look quite proportionate, and as I said, the specifications do bring it up to a very modern standard. Now price wise, this watch is £125 or around $155 from the store that this is available from, which I'll link within the description. Now with regards to this particular design, I had to go back, do some research, as I don't know anything about World War II era watches, of course, but the A11, while it has become the reference for this watch, is actually a production standard which was created in order for pretty much all the military spec watches to adhere to this specific standard, because by that time you had a lot of variations. So the military wanted to standardize it, make sure it did have certain specs that it adhered to, and those specs included that the watch must hack and it must wind. Now the watch also must have a central seconds hand and a minimum of 15 joules. So it was around or before the 1950s, I believe, roughly, where this standard was brought out, and that standard was referred to as the A11. Therefore, the watches that adhered to that adopted that name as a reference. Now, as well as that, they were quite particular on the handset. Of course, they needed to have a minute and hour hand, and the watches also needed to have an outer minute track with 10-minute demarcations. And the dimensions were typically a lot smaller. The dimensions were around 32 millimeter on the diameter, and with a 39 millimeter lug to lug, 16 across the width, but also they required the watches to have drilled lugs. And they also had a specific requirement for the watch strap to be those nylon canvas straps in an olive drab color. Now this is kind of away from that, as dimensions of that nature are way too small for this day and age. So I think this is the smallest that you can get away with, especially for a male. So I think Keaouris on dimensions have done particularly well. What I do also like is the fact that the specifications have been quite highly upgraded. Yes, they could have gone for a vintage acrylic crystal, and I'm sure there's a lot of enthusiasts that would have actually appreciated that. But however, I do like this box style sapphire crystal, but because you get that solid crystal, which isn't going to scratch and it's going to remain in this condition. But aside from that standard, the watchmakers did have some freedom to choose, colors, etc., and bezel designs. Now this one does come with this coin edge static bezel, which has been done beautifully. Really nice detailing there, and as I mentioned earlier, a fully polished case. So it does look nice in hand. It does feel very good as well. And a lot of those older cases were like nickel plated or brass plated, but this is full stainless steel. And as I mentioned, the water resistance also a very nice upgrade due to that screw down crown and that screw down case back. Now the case back typically had specifications in this particular order. You've got some numbers, of course, you've got Keaouris brand name along the back. and it's army watch, basically type A-11. And what Keaouris have done, they've taken feedback on board with regards to the brand name, and with this particular watch they've just stuck to the logo, which you can see it is in white. It matches the text above the 6, which states automatic in scripted font, and the water resistance rating. So nicely done. I think it's a decent proportion to the logo, and I think a lot of people would prefer that over the name. The dial setup is a typical pilot military style configuration. You've got numerals that go around the dial. These are nicely printed, a few layers of Lume applied. It's got that old vintage radium style of Lume application, and as per the specifications it does have an outer minute track, which does have those 10-minute demarcations. The handset is a saw style handset, and the second hand is black, although the tip is also the same color of the Lumes, just to help it stand out. Now the dial itself is a matte black texture, but against these beige yellow markers you do get incredible legibility, which is the main purpose of this watch. These watches were meant to be robust, reliable, and extremely legible, and of course stand the test of combat, just the normal day-to-day stuff you'd expect to do as a World War pilot. Now the watch is also fully lumed. Let's check out that lume, and as I said, it's the old style radium lume, and they've illuminated pretty much all the markers that you can see. It is pretty visible initially, however, because it's the old style of radium lume, the minute track does start to die down a lot quicker, as do the numbers on the outer minute track. The hands and the main numerals on the dial seem to last on quite a bit longer, but this is a time lapse of around 3-ish minutes. It has already started to dull down quite a bit, but that is not uncommon. That's the best that this type of lume always gets. Now they do have 2 versions to this. They've also got this textured beige dial. The legibility is quite poor. The outline of the hands actually blend in, and I think a trick they missed, that they should have obviously reversed the colors, so the outline of the hands should indeed have been black. Now away from the dial, I already mentioned the case. I think there's some particular things on the case which are quite nice. That fixed coin edge bezel, really nicely machined. That crown is very functional. I think for a watch case of these dimensions you do need a very functional crown. I mentioned it's about 6.5 millimeters, which even with these thick gloves on I can screw out just fine, and just pull out once to hack it, as it is that NH38 movement. Screws in perfectly well as well. Just give you some close-ups of the polished surfaces, and I think one thing is missing. Yes, I would have really liked for this watch to have drill lugs as per the original specifications, but unfortunately it doesn't. So let's get this on wrist, and I believe we are ready to summarize. So here is the Keaouris A-11 homage on my 6.5-inch wrist, and you'll agree when you look at this, the dimensions are pretty nice. That 36mm diameter and that short lug to lug seems to fit perfectly on this wrist. It's got great comfort. It does fit around the wrist pretty nice as well. The strap is quite thick, so it does need some breaking in, as do most leather straps. But overall I'm happy with how it fits and how it looks. The legibility is awesome. As I said, it's not the same for the other color version. I personally would stick with this black version, as it is perfectly legible. And I think as far as homaging goes, the A11, it is a very popular design. There's a lot of enthusiasts that really like that, and there are also a lot of more expensive brands that do homage the A11 World War II style of watches. So what I'd say with this, I think the beauty of AliExpress, $150 you can get something which has been spec'd up. It is quite modern in terms of the movement and the specifications that they provide. 200 meters water resistance as well. They only really need to provide maybe 50 or 100, but you've got that extra peace of mind. So I think they've done well with that. I do like that logo placement. I like it over the name that they've printed on the dial, but you still have the name on the case back. If you want to check this watch out, please check the link within the description. Always appreciate it when you guys use those links for AliExpress. And that's it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I will see you on the next video. Don't forget to check out my eBay store. I have left a link within the description. Anything from brand new watches to used watches to a whole host of accessories, including straps, leather, silicone, you name it, all very reasonably priced. If you do want to reach out to me for something specific, then contact me on my email address, which again is within the description. Thank you once again, guys. Your support means everything.